You are listening to Vitruvian Man with Jesse and Josh.
Welcome back to the show. Josh, how you doing?
You're pretty good. How are you?
Pretty awesome.
It's been a long time.
It has been a little while since we recorded. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
We went and saw Cro-Mags, though, and Helmet.
So fucking good. That was such a good show. I have to say, and I when we were there, I told you, Cro-Mags just fucking killed it. They put on such a good show, and they're like just on the right side of everything.
Yeah.
And he was so like emotionally available.
He was vulnerable.
Totally vulnerable, and he was thrown down like a. I mean, he's obviously such a good guy.
Yeah.
And I'm scared of him.
Well, the funny thing is, they're called Cro-Mags.
Yeah.
And they kind of look Cro-Magnon. So I made a joke about that, but he started opening up about his dependency and stuff. I'm like, oh, I really like this guy.
Yeah.
I take back anything I said about, making a Cro-Mag joke. No.
Totally. And like just him opening up about his problems and the fact that if you have problems, don't worry about it. Don't go kill yourself over this shit because it will get better. And if you've got people to talk to them. I really thought like that's not something you ever hear at a punk rock show.
No, and he said, if I can make it, you can.
Yeah.
He said, if it wasn't for the music, I'd be dead. So God bless him for sharing his recovery story.
And I know a lot of people same way. If it wasn't for the music, they'd be dead. I mean, sometimes I feel that way about myself. If it wasn't for the music, it would have been a rougher ride for me.
Yeah. Speaking of programs, I wrote a little haiku. Post-pandemic, mosh pits aren't really a thing. Some shows end up with a little bit of a pit, but it feels like it's I don't know, the old timers are too old to do it, and the young people are a little kind of, I think, afraid of COVID and germs and stuff. I just haven't seen that.
What it is?
Well, I don't know. I just haven't seen that many mosh pits.
I know, and I've wondered if it's like, are the kids scared to get out there and do it?
I don't know. But I did write a little haiku about,
okay.
There was a guy for the first few songs that was by himself. And so this is my haiku for the Circle Pit. Lonely man marches, head bobbing to the music. March on, you hero. So I thought it was sweet, him just out there by himself.
Very nice.
So
yeah.
Write a little haiku.
As Billy Idol says, dancing with myself.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're talking about men at work.
Men at work.
Men, of course, women at work too.
Yeah.
Can't talk about men at work without talking about women at work.
Two sides of the same quarter.
So we both did a bunch of research, and we found some interesting things. Real quick, this is somewhat workplace related, but I had to just, since I came up with some research and only tangential related, but a pretty great little story. Homosexuality was still classified as an illness in Sweden in 1979. Swedes protested by calling in sick to work, claiming they felt gay. So, good for the Swedes.
So sometimes the Swedes deal with things very well.
Yeah, it's. I like that. I thought that was pretty great. So, basically, what I learned, one of the things I learned about masculinity in the workplace and men at work, is that the pandemic kind of changed things. Somehow, some of these companies that were they weren't necessarily getting hit with lawsuits and stuff, but they definitely had a more male-forward workplace and emphasized aspects of jobs that were associated with masculinity. For example, I learned that in Google, basically, to get promoted, you have to self-promote to get ahead.
Right.
Which is great if you're super assertive. Women having been conditioned to be subordinate all these decades and centuries, they, I think, probably do have a harder time advocating for themselves.
I agree.
But of course, this is a policy that really doesn't help men either. And I learned a lot about basically how, let's say, startlingly kind of heavily masculine companies, the men are not as happy at those companies. So in the companies that really are aggressive about, how they're using their language and how they're talking to people, and let's say very kind of traditionally, heavy macho kind of stuff, the men in those workplaces are not happy.
Makes sense. At least, a portion of them, right? I mean, like, there's only so many manly men out there.
Right, and there are manly men that are nice people too.
And I
so
mean,
that's the thing, right? There
typically,
are
yeah.
big, burly, manly men that go to work and they're cool, and you know what I mean.
And I didn't mean like
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it's not really working for anybody. But one of the weird thing is the pandemic kind of changed this, and that was how I had a hard time understanding it changed it. But when they would have these Zoom meetings, basically over the pandemic, I think that good practices of Zoom meetings are, let people talk, don't interrupt, try, raise your hand if you have something to say. I think that, I don't want to say feminized the workplace, but I think a more equitable kind of way of leading meetings and allowing people to talk kind of opened the door for people that had been quieter maybe in previous years. So that was an interesting byproduct of the pandemic.
That's weird how Zoom kind of is the cause of that. That or one of the causes,
Yeah.
I'm sure. That what a weird thing that would be the technology that would change that.
It's an odd byproduct, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you a minute ago, I wanted to cut off this real quick here. You did some Forbes research, and you
Okay.
came up with a list of supposedly, masculine and feminine traits in the workplace?
So this is a Forbes article, and I can't remember specifically when it was from, but it's recent, within the last year, maybe even the last few months.
Right.
And they came up. They were talking about masculinity or men in the workplace and men and women in the workplace and how they relate in this kind of thing. And it's your classic Forbes douchebaggery, right? I mean, it's not highbrow, but it is surprisingly fucking backwards. The list that they give. Okay, so I'll read it off. It's kind of extensive where it is, but
That's okay. I think you should read the whole thing.
they give the masculine traits in the workplace, right? So the masculine traits in the workplace: knowledge, action, predictable, willpower, rational, protective, problem solving, strength, directness, not looking for approval, structured, goal-oriented, conquering, and linear thinking. All right, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, those are, yeah.
Okay.
No, women don't have those traits. I mean, come on, man. Yeah.
And then the feminine side of things, and this is where it really got me, right? So intuition, receptivity, flowing, magnetizing, of course, emotional, nurturing, vulnerability, grace, subtlety, cares what people think. This one follows nature's rhythms. Jesus Christ!
What does that even mean?
Like, God damn it! I mean,
That's not a thing.
well, I mean,
First of all, no one does that. That
The-
sounds like some hippie bullshit to
well,
me.
let's talk about the implications.
Yeah.
Right.
Do they mean the cycles of
That's-
their
That's
periods?
what
I mean,
I'm only assuming that that's what you're talking about.
I would say that borders on magic. Like, I don't know what that has to do with the workplace.
And then they go all Shiva on you here, and they give you both creative and destruction, and then circular thinking.
So creative and destructive are one category?
No, it's the two things, but like
So women are destructive.
and creative at the same time. Yeah. I don't understand how they come up.
Oh, boy.
This is insanity. But I think that this is a really straightforward, old school way of looking at men and women in the workforce. And I think that, like you said, since the pandemic, especially, but in the past 10 years or so, this has kind of been thrown out the fucking window. I don't feel like this applies in any real sense anymore. And they may be talking about, well, we're not talking about men and women here, we're just talking about masculine and feminine. Give me a fucking break, right?
Well, I mean, okay, so I have a student worker mentoring her and stuff, and one of the things I told her was don't look to other professionals for approval. But what I mean is be confident in the work that you're doing, and be gracious about accepting a compliment. But as a designer, you kind of need to be sure about what you're doing and be happy with it, and don't rely on the praise of others, because there's times where you've done really great work, and you should just know that it's good. It's not vanity. It's just being confident that you've done a good job.
Right.
But that's different. You remember George W. Bush called himself the decider. I'm the decider. I make decisions, right? Looking for approval. The thing is, too, that like the best work is collaborative. And so
Yes.
if you're never looking for approval about anything you're doing, what that basically means is you're ignoring input. That's a terrible employee.
It's a horrible way to work. And it's, I mean, if you're doing whatever, if it's you by yourself doing something, fine, whatever. But if you're working with people, you need to work with people. It's fucking ridiculous to think that you can just go your own way in a team.
Yeah, just all those traits that are supposedly feminine, emotional. It's just
Nurturing.
I imagine women in the workplace have to be so careful
Oh yeah.
about moderating their emotions. I mean, because of the negative associated stereotypes with getting upset about anything.
Hysterical, right? I mean, that's the term that comes up once there's a fucking either it's like a Seinfeld thing, wow, cat fight, or fucking
Right.
they're hysterical, right? As soon as you show any kind of emotion, and I mean, dudes get that kind of, why are you being such a girl about it? That kind of reaction to, guys getting mad about something or feeling like there's unjustness going on in whatever situation. They get compared to a woman, which is like ridiculous on the face of it, and insulting to both men and women.
Well, and imagine a workplace too, where a man could say to another man, "When you said that, it hurt my feelings."
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like, how about just we be honest with each other and give honest feedback, and that's a feminine negative thing.
Right.
Like, imagine where most professionals, you're a professional, they understand that when you're in a workplace, you have to have a certain amount of armor up.
Yeah.
Because you don't know who's a bully and who isn't. You don't know, unless you know them really well, you're guarded about how you feel about things and how you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You're not excited to let your feelings out about something if you don't know the person.
Yeah. For sure.
Because it may not go over well.
And I mean, I've told you about, working in kitchens and working in an all-male kitchen. It's a fucking nightmare. There's just so much testosterone and dick swinging going on. I mean, Bourdain wrote a lot about that in his books, and he wrote about it really well. But it was definitely a thing. My favorite kitchens were fully like integrated, mixed races, mixed genders, like everybody in their sexuality. Like I loved working in kitchens where everybody had something else to bring to the table.
So it made kind of a mellower place to work, not as
So much so. I mean,
aggressive and
everybody's like, you're bouncing different ideas off of each other for food. You're coming at the dishes with different experience, different things. I mean, one of the problems with food in fucking Sonoma County is that everybody cooks the same fucking thing. There's very few places that don't have. This is my hobby horse.
that's okay.
Fucking candied nuts and fucking blue cheese on a goddamn salad. Fuck these people. Come up with something interesting.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I hadn't thought about the stagnation of the fine cuisine out here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sameness though.
It's very Sonoma County. There's a Sonoma County thing, and some of the best places I worked at would have, women, or I mean just people in general, but it would generally be mixed, gender, sexuality, whatever, coming in and offering stuff from out of town. So people coming in from Portland,
Nice.
people coming in from Washington, and bringing their style of food. And it makes such a difference, and it really becomes more collaborative instead of a competition. And not to say now, I did work in a couple kitchens where it was mostly women, and sometimes there was issues there.
Of course.
But it was different. It was a different kind of thing. But
Everyone's human, right? I mean, we're
Right.
not saying that women are perfect. We're just
No.
saying that it makes a more interesting, diverse workplace.
having a diverse workplace comes up, you end up with a better creativity, and everybody brings something else to the table.
I mean, it's like comedy, right?
Yeah.
Jon Stewart says he regrets having basically a white writing staff
Right.
for The Daily Show those years. He goes,
Yeah.
we weren't trying to exclude anybody. It just, I knew the people that I thought would be funny in the show, and I hired them, and he says I made a mistake.
Yeah.
And when you do have writing staffs that are diverse, you get diverse humor too.
Yeah.
You do get a spice that's different. Like you do get flavors that aren't the same, like you said.
Yeah.
As all these restaurants kind of cranking out the same shit.
Yeah, and just, I mean, all the shows cranking up the same fucking humor.
Yeah, that Reservation Dogs, which I hope everybody watches, has an all Native American writing staff, and the humor is completely different. It's
Yeah.
just so different than the things that we're used to seeing. I guess I didn't expect to see that, but you know what I mean?
It's not something that occurs to you
No.
until you see it.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So, one interesting workplace thing I wanted to talk about. This is a little bit out of left field, but people may not remember Ricky Williams. Ricky Williams was I think when Ditka was coach of the Saints, he traded 2 or 3 number 1 draft picks or something to get Ricky Williams. So he made it. It's the most insane trade, one of the most insane trades in the first round of the NFL because he paid a lot for him. And Ricky Williams, when he went to the Dolphins, there was a drug test that was a surprise, and they tested positive for marijuana. And he had a few years that were pretty, awesome. I mean, he had an MVP maybe, but he was a very good player. That basically he got a marijuana suspension or something, and I don't know if he was kicked out of the league, but he definitely got into trouble for smoking marijuana, and of course the hue and cry about what an idiot he was for choosing marijuana, for being a loser, basically for doing this rather than, and basically in lieu of all this money. And he just came out the other day with Jim McMahon from the Bears saying, I chose marijuana over the NFL because it was healthier for my body.
Fucking A, man.
That is a pretty incredible thing to say.
Yeah.
We know that these young men can get CTE and dementia in their 50s. Their lifespan is shorter. If you're in college, you don't make it in the NFL, you've got no long-term health care.
Yeah.
You could have CTE, you could have all kinds of concussion problems and problems with your joints and stuff. And so, it's exploitation. It's 1,000% exploitation. Yeah. But I just find it interesting. Anytime, a player, so Ricky Williams, I remember it at the time, people basically saying, you're a loser, what are you doing? You're choosing marijuana over the league.
So did he, I saw that clip that you sent, and I thought that was awesome.
Right.
So did he actually, say, fuck it, I'm out? Or did he, get canned because he was smoking weed?
I don't think he ultimately got banned for life or anything like that, for weed.
So he just...
I knew it was a byproduct of his playing, that he'd been in trouble for it a couple times.
Yeah.
I think he played a few years and then, had enough. But I don't know. I just thought it was pretty profound. And it does address, masculinity in the workplace and men at work, right? Like, the NFL is a very obviously super macho, male, testosterone-driven place, which is why it was such a big deal a couple of years ago when the Raiders defensive player came out as gay.
That's right, yeah.
He was like the only starting NFL player in the league to be out.
Everybody lost their fucking mind about that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even follow football, and I remember that poor guy.
I know. Yeah.
Is he still playing?
Yeah, he's still a good player. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, obviously a league that's dominated by, kind of all these insane stereotypes about men and what a man should be. And,
yeah. I mean, that's it. That's all the bad stereotypes, right? Fucking man.
Yeah,
fucking in one job. It's all right there.
So let's go on to more research here. Forbes had a pretty good article about this.
Another Forbes?
Different Forbes.
All right.
Basically, research has shown that diverse, equitable, and inclusive organizations outperform others and are far superior in other key ways we measure business performance and success. No meaningful progress can be achieved on anything without involving the majority. Men still represent the vast majority of leadership roles in organizations. Therefore, building inclusive culture must be framed as a leadership imperative. So I found this company, Catalyst, and Catalyst does training, and the way the linchpin of Catalyst training is integrating men into their training. They basically said that women cannot, diversification in the workplace can't happen without men. Since men are in so many leadership roles, Catalyst, they rely on men to help empower women make a more equitable workplace.
Huh.
Kind of interesting, yeah. So they basically they count on recruiting men to their cause as part of what they're doing, essentially.
So I'm trying to just pin down what you mean here. So they utilize men in their business to train?
Basically, so if you get a hold of Catalyst, they'll get back to you and they'll say, would you like to set up some training? And I think what they try to do is they ask the organization or business or whatever to identify key male players that would be supportive of gender in the workplace, of gender inclusion and diversity in the workplace. And so, unless you're a troglodyte working at some lame, unless you're maybe Fox News or something, you're going to have men. Of course I'll sign up for this. Of course I'll champion this and be a part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not just an outsider coming in, talking to you with their own opinions. It's basically men that are in your workplace with you.
So they come in, train the men, and then
exactly. And they use the men in the dialoguing, basically.
Right.
know.
Interesting.
Yeah, they find kind of advocates and allies within the organization to kind of help carry that mantle. So
Now, does the same apply to places that require like DEI statements for hiring and that kind of thing? Do you know, or is that something separate?
are you talking about diversity statements?
Yeah, right. So when sometimes companies require you to write out some sort of
Right.
diversity statement when you get hired.
Right.
And is that part of it, or is that something completely separate?
I think that's separate.
Okay.
I've been on some interview committees where the place I work and definitely is a part of the interview process. So you're required to write a diversity statement,
Yeah.
and then they will ask you about it during the interview too.
So I just heard Harvard and I think a few other schools have
Yeah.
dropped that.
Oh, they dropped the diversity statement.
Yeah, they
Are they saying it's reverse discrimination, or what was? Did they have a cause or?
They're saying that they still have a diversity, equity, inclusion idea. Like they're still supportive of that, but in order to hire, they don't require the statement when you're hired because they think that it doesn't really do anything.
Well, it's funny because having read them and seen them talked about in person, you might be able to fake it when you're writing it. You can't fake it when you're in person.
Really?
Which is why I like it.
Okay. All right.
Of course, I work at a very liberal institution.
Yeah, sure.
Of course, there are Republicans and Trump voters that work there. Of course, there are. I guess.
I mean, really, they are part of the diversity, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But the problem is some of these people are involved in racist incidents. And so I get, for me, it's like, essentially, the workplace discriminates against all kinds of people.
Yeah.
For example, if you're disabled, some of these physical tasks will be impossible for you.
Right.
There are lots of censures on your speech and your behavior. I guess it never bothered me that someone had to try to explain to a room full of people how they feel about diversity. I guess you could fake that too. You could be a stone cold racist, and I guess if you were smart enough, you could fake that.
If you want the job, although it seems like they would rather not have the job.
Yeah, and I don't know. For me, I don't want to discriminate against the discriminators on one hand. On the other hand, I'm not really excited to work with someone who thinks that's all hooey and is.
We don't need to hire Nazis, right?
Sorry.
I'm just saying.
If there's 10 people in front of me at an interview, and one of them completely blows the discrimination statement, and I don't mean just like stammers through it. I mean like says something awful.
Right. Well, it's pretty obvious. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So so you view it as a useful thing for hiring.
Just basically hearing someone answer that question says a lot about them.
Okay.
And I'm not sitting there judging them. I'm not like
and that's
waiting for them to screw up and excited about not getting them hired. That's not what it's about. It's
right,
just,
and that's not the sole deciding factor on their hiring, but it gives you an insight into their state of mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
All right.
Just how you answer the question is kind of a psychological test.
Yeah, no, I see. I've never had to deal with any of that.
Yeah.
This has never been part of what I've been hired for.
Well, I mean, for liberals like us, I'm not saying the question's an insult, but like it is kind of hilarious.
Yeah,
being asked to defend our commitment to diversity. So
look at me.
Yeah, exactly. White guys. I mean, like I said, we're going to solve the world's problems.
We just have, Jesse.
We just solved another problem right there. So what other? I got some other interesting things here. 69% of men experience low psychological well-being in workplaces that are dominated by men and male behaviors.
Totally makes
compared
sense.
to only 38% of men in organizations with low masculine expectations.
I mean, that makes so much sense just because, I mean, high school's the ultimate mash together of a bunch of masculine bullshit.
Right.
And everybody's fucking bullied in high school.
Right.
69% of people in high school are bullied, right?
Well, this is in the workplace.
Right.
I mean, obviously, high school is modeling
a
lot of things that are
that
repeated
direction.
later in the workplace.
Yeah,
of course.
That's all I'm saying.
34% of men experience high workplace withdrawal, e.g., neglecting tasks, being late for work, making excuses to get out of work. compared to only 5% of men in organizations with low masculine expectations. So I guess just more data driving to point home that equitable workplaces are, better for everybody.
Well, and it's
essentially.
lost hours. I mean,
Yeah.
That's,
Oh, yeah.
that's a pretty big thing. And I'm sure that there's increased sick time, there's increased, time off, probably higher turnover in most of these places that have that kind of a
Yeah, people don't-
work culture.
Aren't as likely to use their sick time if they're happy in the workplace, right?
Yeah.
If they're, like, where they're working. So,
Yeah.
have you ever, you and I work for an awful company, have you ever witnessed any awful things in the workplace that were like, I don't mean like sexual harassment per se, but like, have you ever seen any kind of times where you thought a man was maybe dominating a woman unfairly or like behaving in a way that was uncool?
I definitely have. I mean, a lot, like I said, kitchens are
Oh, yeah.
a pretty good place. It was more like, so this is one of my fucking favorite things.
Yeah.
I was cutting up something, and this guy came in and he was wanting to, he's from a meat company, wanted to sell us meat. Me, tall-ish, white guy,
Yeah.
tattoos, cutting up meat, beeline right for me. And so I started talking to me about it. I'm all, you need to talk to her, dude. He's like, you could see him just go.
So he was excited to talk to you, not so much to her.
Well,
Because he thought he knew how to pitch to you?
he thought it was an it. He thought he was talking to another dude, and I wasn't the guy to make decisions. She was the chef. She was the one making decisions.
Right.
And he knew as soon as I said that he fucked up because he didn't walk in there and ask, "Who's the chef?"
Did she saw the whole thing then?
Oh yeah, I'm all. You need to
okay.
talk to her, buddy.
Nice.
And she's all, "Yeah, you can go."
Damn.
Yeah,
It's
Sarah J would not.
instant karmic retribution.
She did not fuck around, but
That's nice.
that was hilarious. But yeah, I mean, I saw that. I saw that all the time in kitchens, and it was just the assumption that was made that I was in fucking charge, and I loved telling them that I wasn't.
This is only somewhat related, but you and I were talking about our old shitty company we worked for, and we had a vendor once. It was a box vendor, and he got me 2 tickets to go see the Raiders. I'm like, you want to go? He goes, you want to go see the Raiders? I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go. So I brought a friend. Great seats. It was like 50-yard line seats. It was unbelievable.
Damn.
But before I went, he goes, yeah, sometimes we get the box up high, but Spielberg and all his Jew friends get it this week.
Oh,
So,
Jesus Christ!
I don't know if he thought I was Hispanic, because I don't, I'm the client, so he's probably not going to hurl a racial slur at someone he knows is Jewish. So I don't know what he thought I was. Yeah, I'm Hispanic.
So did you call him out on it?
That was a time in my life where there's no way I could have I wouldn't know what to say.
You're right. What do you say to that?
I feel differently now, but back then, it's just. But that same company, they used to hire. Well, they had attractive women wearing skimpy clothing at their road shows. Do you remember that? Their trade shows.
I know how trade shows work,
Yes,
but I don't think that I never went to any of those.
I definitely went to a few trade shows, and obviously, scantily clad women and or attractive women are a very common part of that workplace. The only one I can address directly is the one I worked for. And one of our new salesmen was there. She'd only been there about 2 or 3 weeks. And basically, during a open sales meeting, the boss said something like, yeah, so you'll be wearing this shirt and you'll be, it's like a super tight shirt. It's not a professional workplace shirt.
This is at our workplace?
Yes.
Her boss said?
Yes.
Oh, I got off air, we're talking.
So real quick,
okay.
He basically says, yeah, you'll be wearing these clothes and blah, 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 blah. And I said to her afterwards, I said, it is outrageous that they're asking you to do that. It is totally unacceptable. This is sexual harassment. Don't wear that shirt. You don't have to do it. I'll back you up. If you want to complain about it, I'll go with you. Anyway, of course, she was not excited to complain about that. This is the burden that women have, right? Like she's worked there 3 weeks. There's no job security.
No.
If she complains immediately, she can get fired for it, right? And it's just like, she didn't say a thing. Of course she didn't. I mean, it's like...
I am totally curious.
Oh, yeah, I'll tell you.
Okay, all right. What a pile of shit, dude.
I mean, I see you're an attractive woman. You must be ready to wear this shirt. And I just, oh my God, what are you doing?
So get out an ice cube before you go out there.
Oh my God. Holy fucking shit. But yeah, I've seen the place I work at currently. I remember one of my bosses was administrative assistant to the president. So I'd started at a lower position at that place and then worked her way up to a very high position. And we took a meeting with another guy at the college who's kind of a famous asshole. And he said to her, he looks at her and he goes, "So are you going to take notes?" Because she used to be a secretary.
Oh, god damn it, dude.
And we proceeded to take the next 45 minutes into the meeting, and he left. And I said to her, "Did he just say that?" She goes, "Dude, did he just say that?" And we couldn't believe it. I said, "Man, I gotta say, you held your composure? When he said that to you, that was a direct, absolute insult."
Straight up fucking insult.
Yeah, and I said, "I gotta say, you didn't register it on your face at all. Good for you." So anyway, I couldn't believe it.
Was there repercussions for that?
No. The thing is, this same guy has been in a few scrapes with people, and it's like, if you don't have a manager that can keep you under control, there's only so much HR can do. Right? HR can have...
So you can't...
If the manager, basically puts you on probation, the manager can make steps, and then if you're on probation, you do something again, then there's other steps to be taken. But
so nothing can happen if if you don't have a manager above.
Well, if you have a weak manager.
Okay.
So yeah, that's, I have a pretty great manager who defends her employees really well.
Yeah.
Some people don't, and that's the problem. Is that the infrastructure, HR, they can only do so much if you have And to be fair, this guy's manager is a lovely person. She's a great lady. I like everything about her. She's in an impossible position, right? Because this guy's big bully.
Yeah.
And she's this diminutive person who's a professional in every single regard, just not able to stand up to this guy. And I understand.
That's rough.
Yeah. He's bullied her into submission, basically. So
that sucks.
Yeah, it does. All right. Do I have more notes here? Well, I'm trying to pour through my notes here. Did you have any other notes you wanted to talk about?
No,
Are you dry?
I'm dry. This is a bad week.
That's okay. Sorry. That's all right. It's been a busy week. But I do have an asshole of the week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one.
Asshole of the week.
So, there's a TikTok post claiming that Saturday Night Live has never hired hot women.
Jesus Christ.
And while the TikToker who goes by the name Jahelis clarified that they were not saying that every woman who's been a cast member on SNL is ugly, the post promoted strong reactions across social media, a couple of funny ones from its stars. There's a current cast member, her name is Cher Sherman. She joined the show in 2021. She said, "Just found out I'm not hot. Please give me and my family space to grieve privately and ugly at this time." So I thought that was pretty good. The TikToker then pondered the lack of hot women cast on the show has been intentional because once we see women as super funny, we have a hard time seeing them as also both sexy and attractive. I don't know where any of these idiotic opinions come from.
What a fucking moron.
Her apology's even better. "I never expected that video to go viral," she said, reading the statement. "Had I known, I would have maybe articulated myself a little better." So this is her articulating
This is her
herself
clarifying.
better. Ready? So
okay.
This is got to make sure you articulate it better. She said, "In return for being brave enough to share a peek into what is the magical, colorful, wonderful world I call my mind, I've received comments calling me ugly, fat, a trunk full of racially charged insults. You know what they say, no good deed goes unpunished. In conclusion, I would like to apologize to no one and will go on living in a world where apparently Tina Fey looks like Megan Fox." Okay, so
even better, this is a woman that said this.
a black woman.
It wasn't Candace Owens, was it?
No.
Okay.
So I don't think so.
All right.
But so the women are ugly in Saturday Night Live. That's number one. Number two, if someone, let's take a profession in comedy where your looks literally don't make a difference at all, right? Comedy has nothing to do with your looks. Someone being funny has nothing to do with their looks. So you're bringing in to the conversation something very unprofessional and uncool, as far as I'm
It
concerned.
has nothing to do with anything. I mean, unless you're using your physical beauty as your shtick, right?
I'm going to say here's what I'm going to say about that. Unless you're a cruel person and you're only trading on your beauty, why does my comment about your looks even relevant?
Absolutely.
So people, she's upset that people called her fat and ugly, and it's like, you took a profession that has nothing to do with looks, you integrated a horrible thing to say to those women, and you're now surprised that people are calling you fat and ugly? That's unfair, isn't it, for people to call you fat and ugly?
I'm shocked. Shocked.
I can't believe it. You know, to me, it's like when a man says this, it's like, men.
Yeah,
They're awful.
Yeah, they're horrible.
And of course it's equally awful. But just when a woman says, like, shouldn't you know better, man?
Right.
You know what women have to go through.
And you, by saying that, you are going to get the same thing. It's
Right.
going to happen to you.
Right, exactly. So, what an awful person.
One of many.
Much like Jan Wenner, the apology was almost worse than the original statement.
That apology was fucking horrible.
Okay, now, before we go, I have a little thing I'm calling Quotations Corner. That is awful, I know it is, but you know when we do research, sometimes I just find quotes that just are so good, I just have to share them with people.
Bring it.
So I'm sorry that it's only tangentially related. To doubt everything or to believe everything are two equally convenient solutions. Both dispense of the necessity of reflection. That's Henri Poincaré. So I just love that. Just question your own beliefs constantly.
Yeah.
You know, your own biases.
Always look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could I be wrong about this?
Yeah.
The other day, our cat licked a grape, and my son's friends goes, "Hey, dude, that can kill a cat." And Coltrane he was a little upset. He's like, "Hey, is everything gonna be okay?" We looked at it. That sounds like complete bullshit. No, it's completely true. Kitties can, if they ingest a grape, they have super sensitive systems, especially to sugar, and they can get a infection and die within 24 hours.
No shit.
But I mean, I just love that we have all these biases and that you can instantly vet them. You know, that sounded like complete bullshit to me. Nope, completely true. I just love that we have this instant vetting machine constantly monitoring what we're doing. You know, I'd rather know the right answer.
Yeah. Carrying around a little brain with you.
One of our heroes is Christopher Hitchens.
Oh boy.
And
My man.
I guess you've probably heard this 1,000 times, but boy, it's one of my favorites. He says, "Don't take refuge in the false security of consensus." You know, whether it comes to movies or being anti-gay or just whatever shitty trend. You know, I say movies because, like, I don't take any comfort knowing the crowd agrees with me.
No, I absolutely music, movie, any creative thing. If there's a group judgment against it, I'll listen to it to see if I agree with it. But I'll have to fucking listen to it.
Yeah, and I give a flying fuck what anyone thinks about the music I like
No.
or the movies I like.
Not at all.
I don't think I'm a genius, but I know what I like, and I think I objectively know what's good.
You know what I like?
What do you like?
Pluto Nash. Nobody can suck it.
I did that a long time. That's Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, it's such a bad fucking movie, but I love that fucking movie.
I love Eyes Wide Shut, and there's people that hate that movie. So.
I still haven't seen that one.
Oh really?
I,
God, it's so good.
yeah, I mean that's really up there in the Q folks. That's a
Oh, is it?
documentary. Oh yeah, that's a documentary as far as I can say.
You got to watch it because there's very little linear plot. There's only somewhat of an antagonist, and the movie ends completely with nothing answered. How many times do you get to see a movie like that?
Yeah, right. I love open endings in movies, but I know most people don't. They like a nice bow on it at the end. Now that's Kubrick's last complete movie, right?
Yeah, so he died, I guess, right as he was editing or something.
He started that fucking android kid.
Oh, the Spielberg movie?
The one that Spielberg finished.
Yes. That was... Don't remember what it's called, but I know
can't
exactly
remember.
what you're talking about.
That was his last incomplete movie, but I think Eyes Wide Shut he actually finished.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that.
Oh, you gotta see it.
Yep.
Really good.
Speaking of movies,
Oh.
Furiosa.
I call that, in some ways, a feminist universe.
Far, abso-fucking-lutely.
In that a woman's value, right, can be every bit as good as a man's, right? She's riding alongside that man, doing those runs, right, to Gastown and to Bullet Town. And
In a
stuff.
very misogynistic situation.
Of course, yeah.
She becomes a powerful woman
Right.
and takes control of her own destiny.
Absolutely.
And we talked about this, but like, you know, Barbie. So I don't know if we've said this on one of the past podcasts, but Barbie was a good movie. I liked it. Whenever I hear somebody say this is a feminist movie, I expect some fucking ass kicking. So I don't believe that Barbie was a feminist movie, but as you say, it's feminist adjacent. Furiosa, Mad Max Fury Road, feminist fucking movies. Those are about women taking control of their own destiny.
That's a good point. I was reading that George Miller, there's a lady, I can't remember her name, I'm sorry, but she wrote the Vagina Monologues. So the interesting thing is, George Miller is filming Fury Road, the predecessor to this film, and he finds out that she's doing, Eve Ensler? Anyway, she's doing the Vagina Monologues. I guess she's doing it in Australia or about to. And he invites her to come talk to his actresses. Now, if you remember that in Mad Max Fury Road, they have all these kind of like brides that are, meant to be for Morton Joe.
Right.
And they have very little dialogue. But George Miller, his wife's an editor.
Yeah.
He obviously respects her and loves her and believes that women have a voice in film and art. And I just found it interesting that he had the author of the Vagina Monologues come talk to these women, just kind of like inform maybe the backstory of their characters, even though they're not big speaking parts.
It's not
like
a
that.
huge part, but going into. I always think of when, if you have a non-speaking part or very minimal part within a movie or a play or whatever, you have to have a good grasp of what the background of that character is. Even if it doesn't come out in words and stuff, it will come out in the way that you act the character, and it'll inform how you put it out there and how people receive it. So that's a really interesting idea of him having her come speak to them about that while he's shooting Fury Road.
Yeah, I can't get through Titanic. I've seen a few minutes of it out of context. But do you know that on the deck of that, let's say where all those hundreds and hundreds of extras are walking around,
Yeah.
do you know he gave them, every single one of them, a backstory? So
No.
I guess Cameron either asked them to come up with something and really work on it, or had written it. But at any rate, I found it's really interesting that even non-speaking parts that might just walk by have a thing going on.
Yeah.
Which is what humans are doing, right?
That's awesome.
Every human in the universe unto itself, essentially.
There's a word for this feeling. When there's been times when I'm standing like on an overpass and I'm watching cars go by, and there's this feeling that you get like that every person that goes by has their own fucking life. They have their own problems, they have their own love, their own issues, whatever, but each person is an entity unto themselves.
Is that overwhelming when you think about that? Or
Sometimes it's really like, it kind of makes me teary thinking about just how complicated everybody is and how they all have their own fucking deal, their own lives, their own problems, their own loves. There's a word for it. I'll have to look this up. There's this whole list of words. Was it petrichor? The smell of the ground after fresh rain.
So you're thinking about really odd specific words.
There's specific words,
right?
And there's specific, like Schadenfreude is kind of
Yeah.
another one. But yeah, so I'll have to look it up because that's a really it's a good thing. And working that into that whole concept into a film is. I kind of got to give James Cameron a little bit respect there, even though I fucking hate that movie.
Do you know he said out loud, he admitted that he stole from Harlan Ellison to make Terminator. So he said it out loud once on a movie set. Harlan Ellison, having watched the movie, took copious notes and proved that some of his ideas were stolen from that movie. And so much so that his name appears, in the credits of Terminator as something like, based on an inspiration by Harlan Ellison, or he gets a credit in that movie. And the other day, I don't know, Cameron was quoted as calling him a parasite. It's like, you admitted you stole ideas
Come
from
on,
him,
dude.
had to put his name in the movie, and he's a parasite?
Yeah, come on.
So, that was not cool.
Well, maybe I'll ask a little more respect for him there.
Great filmmaker, though. Much like a lot of the artists that we talk about, right?
Yeah.
Maybe an awful person, but I'm just watching his movies, so.
Art and the artist.
All right, brother, we cover everything?
I think so. We good for this time?
We solved another problem.
Figured it all out.
Just 1 week at a time, just knocking them down.
All right, I guess that's it.
All right, man, have a good one.
You too. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Rock on. You have been listening to The Trivial Man. If you'd like to get a hold of us, you can either call us at 415-484-8841
or send us an email at thetrivianpod@gmail.com.